Let me pull up my. So, pursuant to the provisions of 2.68.030 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, please take notice that any decisions of the Nashville Public Library Board may be appealed to the Chancery Court of Davidson County for review on the common law writ of certiorari. Any appeal must be filed within 60 days after an entry of a final decision by the board. Any person or other entity considering an appeal should consult with an attorney to ensure the time and procedural requirements are met. And pursuant to TCA 8-44-12, time is reserved at the beginning of the library board meetings for which there is an actionable item on the agenda for public comment, germane to items on the agenda. Up to 5 people will be allowed up to 3 minutes each to speak. Speakers must register within 1/2 hour prior to the beginning of the meeting by signing their name on a physical sign-up sheet available at the entrance and identifying any agenda item on which they intend to comment. So we have one person who is speaking today, and that is Vicki Sparks. Her comment is germane to renovations. Susan, will you be my official timekeeper?
3?
3 minutes.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Sparks, would you come forward? Thank you for coming today. I'll turn off my phone. Okay.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Like she said, my name is Vicki Sparks, and the agenda item I would like to address pertains to the update on renovations, as we are all awaiting getting back to the awesome services of the library. My situation is a little different because I'm especially eager because my daughter had a wedding planned. And I know you hate to hear about that, but October the 4th, she was the last wedding. And this was scheduled 2 years ago, so it was prior to, the decisions to discontinue or pause doing weddings. She and her fiance, when they graduated Meharry, they chose this venue because my daughter grew up going back and forth to the library her whole time at Hume Fogg when she went to school there. So it means a lot to her to have it here. And I feel like if you're going to spend $100,000 on a wedding, you need to get where you want to be. But I do understand the situation. And we knew the importance of booking early. That's why we did the 2 years also, but it's because Nashville is such a destination wedding city. Everybody is coming here to have weddings. In October, of all months, I didn't know was the most popular wedding month. So needless to say, you understand what dilemma we're in, and I understand it's out of your control to a degree as well. But we have 3 months to find a comparable venue, and we have had no success. We have looked everywhere. She's already planned this black tie event. These kids, they go overboard.
Of course.
Anyway, and I do understand the impacts weddings has had on you guys. I've looked at your meetings, and I sympathize with what you've had to go through. So I do definitely understand that. I would volunteer to help in any way I can on that. But we're just hoping that if there's any way that this is our desperate hope, that there may be some way that the lobby may be available or the reading room to accommodate us for October 4th to continue the hopes plan of the wedding. I guess that's what I have.
Miss Vicki, Miss Sparks, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for hearing me.
We, mothers of the brides, understand.
It's been, I see why they call them bridezillas.
We've been there. We understand. Okay. Well, I guess the only thing we'll hear from our experts today, that's on the agenda. And after that, we'll probably have to turn you over to the staff, Ms. Sparks, because at this point, we don't know either. But we hear you. We hear you. All right. And my brain is, I know we have some people on the board that might have some wedding experience too. If something doesn't work out, we can try. We'll do what we can. Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, and thank you for coming to us. I don't really have any comments except to say thank you to all the library staff. We know this has been traumatic. We know it's affected, as well as affecting customers, it has affected you. And, but we just want to say thank you for turning on the dime and being so flexible. You have proven that over and over and over again. So with that, I'm going to ask, we can discuss approval of minutes to see if there are any corrections you would like to make or any additions.
Madam Chair, I move to approve.
Okay, may I have a second?
I'll second.
Second, we have a motion on the floor and a second to approve the minutes of our June 17th meeting. Any more discussion?
Yes.
All in favor? Yes, sir.
Yes. First of all, congratulations to the promotions and new hires within the library system. And I do notice there are a lot of opportunity to work here at the library. So on page 18 of your notes. So if you need a job, come on down. Hope you apply.
Okay.
So
Thank
that's
you.
it.
Well, we have a motion and a second on the floor to approve the 17th minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carried. Terry.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So I just want to say that I have other highlights that I would usually report on during this report is in my board report that I sent to you all on Saturday. So in my report today, I want to provide updates on both the main restoration, but also some restoration, not restoration is not a good word, but remediation at the Old Hickory Library. So I'll start with Maine, and fortunately we have our experts here this afternoon that can answer questions, and I'll let them provide like the actual details. But I just want to let everyone know that crews have been leading NPL through the restoration of the main library, and but meanwhile, the NPL team quickly activated operationally to keep customer service going. In less than a week after the fire, we relocated our system-wide delivery of library books and materials to the former Donaldson branch. And hundreds of library programs and services continued at our branch locations across Davidson County. The other thing is, so that our customers did not feel a disruption in, new books, is that we moved the folks from collections that do check in the new books here to the Southeast Library. So there's not been a disruption in receiving and sending out new materials. We've had our staff from the main library coming out to different branch locations, and so that has been really good as well. And the next part I want to say is that 3 days following the fire, on Friday, June 13th, we communicated that the main library would remain closed through July 7th so that the restoration company could continue inspecting the entire building, which spans 5 levels and approximately 300,000 square feet. 13 days following the fire, on Monday, June 23rd, we were able to share results of that assessment with everyone. Based on the assessment, NPL extended Maine's temporary closure through July 28th for restoration experts, environmental professionals, and industrial hygienists to complete a full and thorough cleaning and restoration. The first on-site and OcuHealth team met virtually with any staff member last Thursday that wanted to attend the virtual meeting. We had over 167 staff members attend, and Bob and First On Site actually answered. We ended up with 10 extra minutes, and so we feel like we've answered questions that staff had up until this point. I also want to say that the library is structurally safe. We had a structural engineer come out and be sure, because the garage is separate from the library, and so Susan's been managing that, and I want to thank her, and I want to thank the maintenance team, Mark Crowder, who was there at 1:30 in the morning the day that it happened. And I do want to reiterate, because staff is saying, well, we're opening on the 28th, and we have to hear it on TV and not, from the admin team. When we had the meeting last Thursday, what I said in quotes was, we intend to open on July 29th. However, this is a fluid process, and we continue to meet with our experts to make sure that we are ready to open, because we do not want to go into that building and then say, oh, by the way, now we have to shut down for another 2 weeks. So I just want to clear up that when we know the exact date, we will let the staff know first, and then get that out to the media. So, okay. So that's the main restoration. The other thing I wanted to address was the Old Hickory branch. On June 27th, Athena Engineering and Environmental, LLC, conducted an indoor air quality assessment, specifically testing for mold spore levels at the Old Hickory Branch Library. The survey involved sampling various interior locations throughout both floors of the building, as well as 2 outdoor samples collected just outside the structure to serve as a baseline for comparison. Additionally, tape lift sampling was done in areas where mold or suspected mold was visible on the surface. The area sampled included the exterior on the eastern and northern sides, the interior, which includes the teen area, the children's area, the librarian's office, general offices, front desk, foyer, restroom 2 on the first floor, and restroom 1 on the basement, and the mechanical room. They were very thorough. Based on the analysis, Athena determined that the mold spore levels present in the building's air do not pose a concern regarding overall air quality. Indoor air spore concentrations were at or below those collected outdoors, which is what is expected during normal conditions. However, they did identify certain areas with visible mold and recommended cleaning those locations to maintain optimal indoor conditions. So to address the recommendation, Nashville Public Library contracted First On Site to perform necessary cleaning, as well as to investigate and mitigate the sources of moisture in these areas. Professionals have already cleaned the building on Friday, and we are working on with them on mitigating sources of moisture. So moving forward, NPL intends to do an annual mold survey at the Old Hickory Branch Library. It was opened in 1937, and so that is one where we want to make sure that it's safe for both the staff and the customers. So outside of those 2 reports about libraries, I wanted to extend Marion Chrisman, who oversees our digital inclusion program, wanted to invite you all and the board to attend the Cyber Senior event. If you haven't been, they play Pomp and Circumstance. It is so wonderful to see people from 70 years old to 94 years old learn how to use a tablet and then be able to take the tablet with them. I was able to go last year, and it was incredible. So thank you to Linda and her team and Marion. But it's on Friday at 11 at the Pruitt Library, and they also have lunch as part of their program. The other thing I wanted to give you an update on, because I didn't have the numbers when I sent my board report on Saturday, is that summer reading. So, we're in full swing with summer reading program. Nikki Glassley, who oversees that with the children's staff, said that there's currently 12,992 readers that to this date, and that is up 1,772 from the same time last year. That also includes 2,211 MNPS students who are part of the Promising Scholars program. So everyone's read 250,997 days so far this summer, and our goal is 355,000, which hopefully we'll be able to reach within our summer reading program time. So that's.
Can adults be in that number?
Oh yes, adults are in that number as well.
So can you report books you already read this summer?
Yeah, Joyce will do that for you. I think we can manage that.
Well, thank you. That is a great report. Any questions for Terry?
So, sorry. I also want to just say how incredible it has been to work with First On Site and with Bob from OcuHealth. They have been willing literally to meet with the admin team once a week since this happened, and that's really helped us to, go through this process because, like we said, that's 330,000 square foot building. So just kudos to them for all their work as well.
Well, thank you for your leadership and your team in handling the situation as well. But I also want to highlight the staff as well. Everybody gets into a routine, getting up, going to the same location every day. And first of all, I understand because I have an operational background. When your routine changes, things may get a little bit uncomfortable. But I will say that even though one building is down, 20 buildings are still up and running. And thanks to you and your aristocratic service that you provide to the city, is great. So thank you to the staff as well as making the proper adjustments and taking the time to use your skill sets and expand it out throughout Davidson County to continue to give us service. So thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Any other comments or questions for Terry? Well, we had not gotten a full report of really what's going on. It's kind of been what we've gotten from you and what we've been reading in the paper. So we are really anxious to have our experts here today. So you want to get is it Kaysen?
Kaysen is here, but
Bob.
no, Bob is here.
Bob is here. And this is
And I'm Jeremy.
Jeremy. What's your last name, Jeremy?
Headage.
Headage.
Yes.
Okay.
Joyce?
Yes.
Did you skip Sean?
Did I?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for keeping me on track. I guess I'm anxious to hear about that.
I'll be quick.
Fire.
Thanks, Keith.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Just a couple announcements from the foundation. As we started our new fiscal year, we have some new board members who've joined us, so I just want to share those names with you all. Lillian Blackshear, Paige Clancy, Rasco Dean, Margaret Riley King, and Kate Satz have joined the foundation board, and will be going through their board orientation Thursday. And so we're really grateful for that new slate. Thankfully, none of them are really new to the library and have been a part of the library and the foundation for many years, so we're grateful. We also have two Young Leader Council interns that will be joining us as well.
Two this time.
Two this year. And just a couple other things. We are looking for support for the Civil Rights Room. Typically, this has been covered. One of our long-term funders had to pull out, and so if you know any individuals or corporations who would be interested in supporting the Civil Rights Room, Vanderbilt is still strong, so it's not Vanderbilt, so don't want you to think that. I'd love to know the names. Also, as you've heard through the years, particularly this last year, the bookmobile has now hit the road with Limitless Libraries, and that is an increase expense to the budget because of staffing and the maintenance of the vehicle and all of that. So historically, Dollar General Literacy Foundation has fully covered Limitless, but as that our expenses for that are growing. We are looking for additional funders as well for Limitless Libraries. So if that is something, could be Limitless Libraries, it could be Bookmobile, because we can slice and dice that in several different ways. Please let me know on that. And lastly, we are continuing to raise money for Begin Bright, and we're in a stage of small gatherings at homes, and we have a couple coming this summer and fall. So if you know of individuals who you would like to hear more about Begin Bright and who are influential in the community, who have connections, and just may be important to be aware of this, you can let Katie know, you can let me know those names, and like I said, there will be several. Or if any of you have not had the opportunity to attend one of these, we'd love to have you participate in that. So an open invitation, and there's a couple dates coming up. Katie, did you want to add anything?
Any
Okay.
questions or more comments?
Nothing.
And then we have a gala coming up.
We do have a gala coming up, and I'm really excited that it looks like we're going to be able to be at the library for the gala. For a moment there, we were debating if we need to come up with a plan B. And Amor Tolles is our author. We have confirmation the Friday evening, which will be at Parnassus. Brock Kidd is going to be in conversation with Mr. Tolles, and then John Meacham has agreed to be in conversation at the public lecture on Saturday morning. So that has just transpired last week, and then Amor will do the lecture in the grand reading room on Saturday evening. So again, if that is something, there are 3 events. Hopefully you can attend one or all of those events, and really grateful that it is something that can touch the entire community, that it's not just for those who are able to afford the tickets. Saturday morning is free and open to the public, and that will be at MLK.
Thank you. So still plenty of time for us to read Amor Tolles' book.
A couple really good ones. So check it out.
I had the experience of being on the waiting list. So I had the experience of the waiting list. That's the one
Good,
thing.
yeah.
So I'm grateful for council and the budget passes, so that will help us out. But did finish Gentleman from Moscow. It is, you don't go to bed at night if you're reading that. So everybody, it is fantastic. I highly recommend it before the gala comes. So then if you've read the books, you
I'm
have
putting
a
in a
different
plug for
kind of
Lincoln Highway.
experience.
Lincoln Highway might be my favorite,
and
Joyce.
Lincoln Highway, yeah, I'm finishing
Yeah.
that now. Yeah,
Yeah, good.
Yeah,
Rules of
yeah.
civility is right up there too.
So, so now you know the board does. We do read all these books.
I love it. I love it.
Love
That's
it.
great.
You get a different kind of experience when you've read the books and the author comes in. It's such a treat.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Any other questions for Sean? And thank you, Keith, again, from acknowledging my mistake. Okay. Well, new business. We're going to move to the update on the restoration of Maine.
So bear with me a little bit because this is my first public forum meeting. Usually I'm in the back house in the operations, running things and making sure it gets done. Currently, we have been working since the fire has started. I've had a team of roughly 150 plus people working 24 hours a day to get the building as clean as possible. We've concluded all the gross cleaning, and we have begun working on the detailed cleaning in the main library on the first, second, and third floors. We're about 90% completed with that task, and we have begun the detailed cleaning of the first floor, circulation area, and conference center, as well as B1 and B2.
What did you want to give the whole report and then let us? We're known for doing questions, so.
Questions are a
We do have
lot
questions.
easier.
It's a lot easier to answer direct questions than try to give an overview. It's a
Okay.
big, complicated process.
So we want to open the floor then for questions.
Well, what is gross cleaning and what is detailed cleaning?
Yes.
So gross cleaning is during the initial onset of a fire, you get a lot of soot and smoke. Gross cleaning is removal of the bulk material, as much of that stuff out as you can. The detail cleaning is a more of a finer detail cleaning. You get in all the cracks, crevices. You do a lot more of the wet wiping, the damp wiping, things like that. the bulk cleaning is, or the gross cleaning is the overall removal of all the main contaminants that you see. Once you get into the detailed cleaning, then there's a lot less contaminants, but you'll still see them. If you walk in, it'll look normal, but if you rub your hand on a desk or something, you'll pick up a little bit of soot. So we get into a more detailed process there.
When you're complete, what would someone expect when they go back to their desk or go back to their office? What will it look like?
So when we're complete, it'll pretty much look how it did before. There may have to be some rearrangements of the items that they had on the desk, because we don't always know exactly where every pen went, but everything should be clean. And I mean, they can expect to pretty much make those minor adjustments and then be able to go right back to work and function.
So, okay, go ahead, Charles.
Ladies first.
We're 2 weeks away from the hoped-for date, July 29th, to reopen. What would set that back? Can you help us see?
I can try to take that one. You know, the vast majority of the smoke damage throughout the library was light. There was an area around the conference center in the auditorium that had a heavier impact. That area requires what we call remedial demolition. You know, some smoke and soot got behind walls, above ceilings, and it's going to require removing and replacing those materials. So the challenging part is that the one freight elevator that services the entire library happens to be in that heavy impact area. So it's the thing that's going to hold us up isn't going to be contamination or air quality issues. It's just going to be sequencing those repairs, because to bring in, you know, new ceiling tiles, do painting, stage equipment, there's all kinds of different components that may need to come out, and there's a bottleneck at that one freight elevator. So we're working with the library staff to look at logistical challenges, so that way when we're complete with the cleaning and remediation, we can try to handle this like a normal renovation project. You know, I'm sure you can imagine if you guys chose to remodel your entire auditorium or conference center, you'd probably spend 6 months to a year planning it. And, you know, we have the task of trying to just get it done. You know, and there's multiple experts involved. You know, the smoke detectors have to get recertified. There's a lot of things that would be boring in a forum like this, but there's a lot of different small steps that go into completing all the work and getting it repaired. So,
But you could open July 29th X the conference space?
the conference space and circulation are right where the major impact is. So, you know, part of the reason we're closed now isn't because of an air quality issue or contamination issue. You know, we've had staff going in. My team has gone in. We're not wearing respirators. It's just that bottleneck and the physical safety hazard of people on lifts, scaffolding. We don't want to run over people's toes. When you change the normal patterns people move in any building, that's when accidents happen. And when you bring in a lot of heavy gear and equipment, that's really been the challenge, is that there's no other way to get up and down to all the different floors that we need to get to. And sometimes you can wait for 30 minutes just to get the elevator back.
That's helpful to help us understand.
How do you test and verify that all services have been completed for safety?
So that's on us too. So the assessment process is like a 3-phase process. We do a preliminary assessment, which is everything you can touch and is accessible. And it's a combination of visual inspection and collecting surface samples. Once we complete that, we moved into the comprehensive. Sorry, I like to look at who I'm talking to.
There you go. It's okay.
So, and that involves looking above ceilings in the HVAC system, all those different components, interstitial spaces, interfaces, things like that. So that overall process to identify where the smoke residue penetrated, you know, I believe we completed about last week, and now they're in the phase of doing that remedial demolition of the areas that require us to remove stuff, right? You know, there's some areas that have return air plenums, which means like the HVAC system actually, you know, pulls the air right up into the space above the ceiling tiles. In those areas, as you can imagine, the impact above the ceiling tiles warrants removal. And then when you remove the ceiling tiles, you have to secure the light fixtures. You have to go to the smoke detectors, right? So all these things that sound simple and easy, we could replace the ceiling tiles. It seems like it should be a quick process, but then there's other steps that need to be taken to make sure it's safe while you do that. You know, people are walking in and out of there. But really, so it's really all just logistical and sequencing issues that, nobody really has complete control over. We have the HVAC contractor. You guys had done a big reconditioning 2 years ago, so even evaluating the level of impact to those components is a different process than making sure it's safe. And I don't mean to minimize it, but at this point, we have collected enough data, from a health and safety air quality standpoint, that is the lowest risk issue we see right now. A lot of the time we're spending is in evaluating if there are components that had some smoke impact on it that are more susceptible to long-term damage to preserve, the assets that the library owns. So before it's open, there'll be another final round of air quality sampling and surface sampling. But on that WebEx call that we did last week, we reiterated that when people come back in, they should not be able to perceive anything, right? You can't see any smoke residue, you can't smell anything, and the sampling that we do, it's not detectable with that either. So even if there is a small amount of combustion byproduct or smoke residue on a component on the roof, by the time any kind of particulate gets off of that, goes through your filters, comes into the building, it's not detectable or indistinguishable between what we call background. Combustion byproducts and smoke and the constituents of smoke are everywhere. So those fresh air intakes, which is how the soot got into the building, there was no fire inside the building. I think everyone understands that. But it pulled that smoke in to the HVAC system mainly through one or two systems that service that auditorium area. Once it got into the building, picture black, heavy smoke coming up. It's sucking that right in. You get super heavy impact there, but then the smoke doors closed. A little bit escaped into that main lobby, and then that got pulled throughout the rest of the system. So the vast majority is very light impact. So where everyone is going to be working or visiting the library, those areas are what we're calling the light impact, that there's, if you can figure out a way to detect it, I would be very interested, because that's our job, and we need to make sure that what we say is true. But we're very confident that there'll be no exposure risk to, most importantly, employees, because they spend the most amount of time there, but also guests.
I appreciate the detailed answer.
Does any of your work relate to parking and the ramps that would ensure that people have access to the library?
So currently our scope of work is and will be limited to the parking that is part of the library. So there's one section of the library that the building was built on top of, and that section is our current scope. The other detached portion is not within our scope of work right now.
So I'm assuming that that's in metro government.
And DOT. And we're working really closely. So the department head, Diana Alarcon, who is over NDOT, as things progress, because some of the things people have been asking is what caused the fire? When, is the parking garage going to be totally demolished? We don't have the answers to that yet. The investigation is not complete as to what caused the fire, and we do not know, will we use the first 3 levels of the parking garage, or will it have to be totally leveled and then built up again? So those are things that are under Diana and NDOT, but we will be at the table. If the garage needs to be rebuilt, we'll be there. Susan, that would be for Susan to be part of that conversation, because our customers and our staff will be affected by that, but we don't have those answers yet. So, Bob, could you also talk about the special collections? I think people are nervous about the special collections and the collections throughout the library, and what had the most impact from the smoke coming in.
So the only collections that we recommended removal on were the collections that were in that major or heavy impact area near circulation. As part of both the preliminary and the comprehensive assessment, we do surface sampling before and after cleaning. I believe we try to make it representative of different types of materials and surfaces, because you do get different levels of adhesion with these things. And all of the collections or contents or materials that we tested were fully restorable with light cleaning, which is either a combination of HEPA vacuuming. They use rubber sponges. Basically, it's a dry, picture dust or baby powder. If we shook it up and threw it here, it really just settles on the horizontal surfaces. So when we tested a book, you might be able to find a detectable level or atypical level of combustion byproducts on the top of the book, but the sides of the book, underneath the book, everywhere else that gravity didn't pull those contaminants onto were clean. And as you can imagine, if you take a dry dust combustion byproduct, they clean very similarly. After you HEPA vacuum it, it's not there anymore. Then we test it. We repeat that hundreds of times to make sure that we feel confident when we say that these books don't need to be sent out, right? With special collections or any really valuable content, there's a second and third expert team that works for the insurance carrier to make sure that, you don't want to spend $10 cleaning a $5 book, but if we have something that's irreplaceable, it warrants extra inspection. And to my knowledge, everything that we've talked about sending out, we're contained to that major or heavy impact area. There's some artwork around the auditorium.
Yeah, I was going to ask about the portraits, the author portraits, and the other art. I don't know what was hanging in the area that day. Are they all okay?
Oh, yeah.
I know that they're being evaluated. In my experience, they're going to be restorable. It's just what level. I suspect that there's going to be some lingering odor, but there's ozone treatments, hydroxyl treatments. There's experts who specialize in restoring artwork or anything you can actually think of. It's a pretty robust industry. Imagine if the Declaration of Independence had some smoke on it. You're not going to throw it away. So it really comes down to a cost-benefit analysis, and also if it's a portrait that can't be replaced, it'll get sent out to somebody to be professionally restored, like an art conservationist or someone like that.
And parents and grandparents who take the kids to the children's area and the puppet, to see the puppets, we can assure them that all of that is fun.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, it's my job. It's everyone who's involved with this. We don't take chances when it comes to anyone's health, but especially children. I have young children. We use our library all the time, and we understand it's really disruptive and impactful, and the last thing we want is anyone walking back into that library thinking, am I not safe to be here? And
Thank you. And
What about in the conference center? Did you have to, are we having to reupholster the seating in the auditorium and then new chairs and everything in the rest of the conference center?
I believe so, yeah. That's been a talking point the last week. We've been communicating with the city's insurance carrier. I believe the decision's been made at the minimum to reupholster them, if not just replace them entirely.
The hard surface chairs are fine. They were cleaned. It's the soft surfaces and any of the foam that can absorb,
Oh, yeah. The
and
foam.
any of
So
the
that
what?
has-
any of the foam that will absorb the odor.
So that has to be replaced too, the foam?
The chair, my understanding, the last time I talked to the insurance company, the chairs in the auditorium will be redone. The backs, the hard surfaces are fine. They've been cleaned, but they will redo the foam and the material.
All of this is covered by insurance. Is that, is
Either
this going to have
insurance
any
or Metro
impact on our
funds.
budget? I guess.
Either insurance or Metro. Can you repeat it, please, Susan?
Either insurance or Metro funds. It'll be a combination of the two, my understanding from finance.
Well, and there was a story today, I think in Nashville Banner, that the insurance coverage is insufficient. I think that was discussed at council last night. Yeah. Do we know any more about
We didn't
that?
see
then?
that, yeah.
I understand that it was discussed at council. I'm not sure what they discussed. If the insurance was on Metro's side or somebody else's side, I don't know.
Metro's side, I think.
But it shouldn't have any impact on the library's budget.
No, there's funds set aside for emergencies such as this, so.
Well, I'm sure that, the board's number one concern is always the safety of all of the employees and anybody who enters our doors. So I want to thank you. Any other questions or see anything that could possibly happen? I know the only thing I'm thinking about right now is if we open for a date of the 29th, and I'm sure, you know, given leadership and everything, that we would be working to make sure that parking, that we had parking and the way people get into the garage would be safe. And I'm looking at Susan.
Our understanding from NDOT is that the garage is closed indefinitely, and they've not given us a date if or when it will be opened.
Okay,
So when we open, the garage will not be available.
okay, okay.
If there's got to be a reconstruction of the garage, I mean, some of the garage is underneath the library, right? I don't understand how they would be able to reconstruct the library side of the parking garage. I can understand why they'd almost have to reconstruct the other side. Am I just sort of,
That would be different experts. You know, I know there's at least 3 or 4 different engineering companies involved. I believe the library hired their own to do a safety assessment of it, but that is not that's not my area
your
of
thing.
expertise
Okay.
or Jeremy's.
all right.
Want me to answer?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Okay. So believe it or not, the garage is actually, there's the part that's under the library. When the Church Street Center was built, that garage was already in place. So when Church Street was built, they were built from Church Street all the way over to Commerce. The second part of the garage was built to accommodate that mall. So there's the part that's under the library, which is the old part, and then there's another part. It's actually 2 different structures.
So if they reconstructed, it would not, the part that's under the library, it wouldn't be touched. Or, I mean, touched is not the right word, but it would not be reconstructed.
It can't be.
It can't be, okay.
Not
That's even
with-
a better answer.
We're over that part of the garage. It can't be. And it's structurally sound from what we've been told.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there a way to investigate, or probably with NDOT, a way to park the employees? And I mean, even if they took WeGo, we arrange that to get them from a parking space or whatever across the river to get employees to
Well,
the
the
library?
problem is with the new stadium, there is no more parking.
Metro parking.
All
We
of
still
those
have to
lots are,
problem solve around parking. Okay.
I'm just,
Staff will be parking in another garage.
PMC
Okay, well, that's
is,
my-
PMC, for those who
Okay,
pay
that's
for
the answer
monthly
to my
parking, staff will be relocated to another garage
Okay, that's
temporarily,
okay.
until such time as the library garage can be reopened or whatever.
you know, one of our challenge, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, does NDOT realize, do they have the bandwidth to understand how important that parking is to the life of the building?
Oh,
They
yeah.
know.
They're well aware.
As we went through this the last time with them, so they do understand. And the problem is, can they keep the first 3 levels, or does the whole thing have to come down? So, and we don't know that yet.
Kind of, do they have an expectation about time? No.
We've not been given any information from NDOT as far as a timeline or, so all of that information is coming out of NDOT. That's not us. We don't know.
Terry, have we had any conversations internally about, my concern is that once you lose customers, you never get them back.
Right.
And you know, it's not easy to come downtown anyway. And now it's going to be, parking is going to even bigger issue than it's always been. You know, it seems like it's sort of an Andrea thing too, I guess. We're going to have to do some, I would think, some promotional stuff, some to get ourselves some visibility. I'm just afraid that Maine will languish after this because people just get out of the habit of coming down here.
Right. Go ahead. Did you want to speak? Go ahead.
You have
Come
to
up
use the
here.
microphone.
So I appreciate your point. We did just take a look at numbers yesterday, so I thought it would be reassuring to share them in real time. I can start with borrowing of books and materials. We actually took a look at borrowing of books and materials system-wide in May compared to June 10 through July 10, and actually borrowing is up system-wide. We're also hearing anecdotally that at the nearest locations to Maine in our urban core, as well as our Madison regional branch, we're seeing increased foot traffic, and the staff who usually work at the main library and are now temporarily working out of those locations are recognizing their frequent customers. So I say all this to say, Mr. Simmons, that our customers have really hung in there with us. They're incredible people. Library people are the best people. So I do have a reasonable level of confidence that we can still reach them, either at those locations or through our communications system-wide. So at this juncture, we're reasonably to optimistically confident that we're not going to lose them.
What about, Studio NPL becomes important once school starts? Are we going to be up and going with that?
So Studio is actually already out in the community doing workshops, summer workshops at our branches. So I think we still, we're maintaining a community presence. So I can't speak to timeline, but I can speak to continued engagement with those young people across Nashville.
And a lot of those after school walk from Umbog. And so the other thing is there is a parking garage that is across, it's on 6th in between Church and Commerce right there. So what customers would need to do is then just cross the street, go up to Church, and then go to the front door. Because the other thing is we won't be able to use the door that most people parked in the garage and then came into the library. So we have, we've talked about all of these things and how best, I think, we're so fortunate that, Brett is here from Wishing Chair, and our children's programming at Maine is so strong that I believe that folks will still want to come, down there. So it'll be a little bit of a change that folks will need to get adjusted to. But, we have an incredible marketing team. And so, we're fortunate with that to get the word out. And then whenever it is that we do have the garage back, just doing a huge celebration that it's back and it's there. But I think people do have options, for parking that is close enough that they can come and still use the library.
Okay, you'll probably fire me off the board the minute I finish what I'm about to say, because I know we can't afford it, but it sure would be fun if we had trolley runs from east, south, north, and west for puppet shows only. And so you meet at a certain, Kroger parking lot or whatever, and you ride in the trolley, you go to the puppet show, and then ride back.
Maybe we can get some foundation funding for that. We're fortunate, though, too. We do have the puppet trucks. We're also replacing our oldest puppet truck in the near future, and also trying to replace the second one. The Wishing Chair and the puppet truck have been out since this happened, making sure that they are out and available for our customers at the branches. But it is a concern, Keith. I'm not going to say that it's not.
Is a summer concert series, are we doing that? They weren't doing that anyway, right?
That's correct. Because of the courtyard. Because of the courtyard is another conversation.
We can always count on the creativity of the library and the board people. I think I read this book again. It's called Unreasonable Hospitality. So it's like doing everything that we can to be hospitable to our customers. And that we got proof of that, I think, during COVID, when we were able to go get a book, and they just came and put it in my trunk. So I think that even if we have to resurrect that, or the staff will come up with whatever we need to do to keep our customers.
The other thing is, when Bob mentioned about the HVAC work, kudos to Susan and her team. That was done just last summer. And if we hadn't done that, they said that the extent of the damage would have been greater. So although we were closed to, upgrade, that was a 25-year-old system. That was really worth it because we would have been sitting here in a different situation. And also just to, Chief Swan and his team to get there as quickly as they did. If they didn't, again, we would be having a different conversation.
Well, we want to publicly thank the fire department too, because they've been amazing.
Along with, the staff, which we talked
Yeah,
about.
we talked about
everybody's
the
risen
staff.
to the
Everybody's come
occasion.
together.
What's been interesting is to see, and I guess this is y'all's work in comms, but the community has really cared about the library, and there have been lots of opportunities to understand what happened and why, and that's why we're all getting questions about parts of the thing that no one knows anything about yet. But it's exciting that people care as they do, and y'all should. It's everybody's work that creates that entity for the community to love.
I'm kind of curious about the traffic level for the branch office. I want to see, hopefully you can be able to give us a report in the upcoming future of how traffic may increase in some of the branch offices because of this situation. So.
Yeah, so Andrea said, she checked with branches yesterday, and Jessica Piper's here. She's the regional manager at Madison. One of the first things she said to me is, it's so wonderful to have the main staff out to help us, but also the fact that we've seen such, an increase in traffic at Madison. So we will be able to actually give you the door count, all of that, next
awesome.
board meeting, because it runs till the end of July.
I have one other thing. It sort of distresses me a little bit that when I read the headlines about this, it's the library fire. And there was no fire in the library. And just as importantly, we had nothing to do with this.
Right.
We were just victimized by the fire. A lot of people don't read past the headline. And I hope we can work with the media a little bit to clarify that this is not the library fire. This is a parking garage fire that happens to be next to the library. The other thing is, I hope you can get Ms. Sparks in here with her wedding, because I've been there, and once you get all the planning done, it is, we got to get her in here.
No, I asked her for her phone number because I think, it's one thing to not be able to use the conference center, but we do believe that the kitchen equipment in the conference center is working. And so I think we just need to figure out a way to make it happen. It might not be exactly the way, they had envisioned, but we'll definitely go back in, because we have a lot more information than we did. I think that I spoke to her or the wedding planner like the week after, then we didn't have all of the information from the experts.
We want to see the bride walk down that grand
That grand staircase.
That's what I want to see.
Yes.
Let her have that moment.
Yes.
Yes.
Just a quick note, Mr. Simmons, to your point. We have been communicating 3 days in, 13 days in with our customers that the garage is indeed adjacent to the library, but not owned and operated by the library. And by and large, we've seen very accurate reporting from our partners in the news media, very clear that there was no fire within the building, and we're talking about soot and smoke damage. But as Bob has mentioned, less than 10% of the building sustaining heavy impacts, and more than 90% of the building very, very light impacts. So we've been really grateful to our partners in the news media for that.
Okay.
Well, Bob and Jeremy, I think we warned you that we would ask a million questions.
Well, need to talk to the headline writers.
We warned Bob and Jeremy that this board has a tendency to ask a lot of questions. So is there anything else that we have not asked that you would say to us as board members and to the staff, everybody present here?
Can't really think of anything.
Okay.
we're engaged by the library. We're, offering professional opinions on the library's behalf, and we kind of look at it as our job to ask all those hard questions and have answers for you, so you don't have to think of questions. This is what we do for a living. Both Jeremy and I have been in the same business for 20 years. It's the first time we've ever worked together, but I can tell you all the different experts and consultants, even from Travelers, the insurance carrier, their consultants, everyone's really approaching it in a collaborative manner, and it doesn't always happen that way. You can imagine with insurance companies who are paying bills, they want it to be a little bit less, and I can say from experience, this has really been a positive experience, and
We're glad to hear that.
collaborative approaches, makes it a lot easier to do your job and do it well when you can work like that.
Well, we want to thank
thank
you
you,
for taking
everybody.
time to be here today to answer all of our questions.
Yes.
And for your report.
And Susan and I are going to meet with them after this so that we can get a better idea about the opening date.
Okay, to confirm all of that. Well, thank you, because our main concern, again, is that everyone is safe, staff and employees, staff, employees, same thing, but I mean all of our customers, children, seniors, everybody's safe to enter that building. Thank you so very much. So our next is the update on the art lending library MOU.
And so page 53, I want to welcome Ann Leslie Owens from Metro Arts. Metro Arts has been an incredible partner with the library way back to even when we did our first, as you can see, the Art Lending Library was originally at the Southeast branch and at Madison, and then Jessica Piper is our regional manager at Madison, who had one of the first art lending libraries. So I'm going to turn it over to them, but on 53 is the Memorandum of Understanding.
Welcome. Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. My name is Ann Leslie Owens. I am with Metro Nashville Arts Commission, and it's been my pleasure over several years to work with the Nashville Public Library on an art lending library. I hope you all are familiar with it, have actually checked out some artwork. As Terry mentioned, we have some here. There's also some closer to the circulation desk. This is a program that is important to Metro Arts and the library because it increases accessibility. For Metro Arts, we want everyone to have access to a creative life. And that certainly aligns with the goals of the library as well. We started this program in 2021 with our first phase at Madison and Southeast with 60 artworks, and then we expanded just last year in 2024 by adding 53 additional artworks. These are all works by local artists, which is very important to us to support local artists. And to expose library patrons to the work of local artists in the hopes that they'll want to learn more, perhaps become artwork collectors themselves from this experience. We are also, it's also important to us that this program be customizable. We can make it as large or small depending on the space available at any location. In some of them, there's, less room. Old Hickory, one of the smaller branches, so we have less artwork there, but more artwork, for example, at Green Hills, where they have that wonderful hallway display space. So it is customizable. You'll see that we have different languages. And just in working with the branch managers, we determine which are most appropriate at each location, and that is part of our signage for them. So what you have in front of you that I hope you've had a chance to review is our Memorandum of Understanding. This is something that we wanted to have for this project in particular because it is a partnership project and there are specific roles and responsibilities for both Metro Arts and for the public library. So on page 2 of that, you will see the Metro Arts responsibilities, which are basically the purchase of the artwork, its installation, and framing, the checkout cases, in the event that any maintenance is needed, that we can, for example, get something reframed. All the branch manager has to do is let us know that something needs to be picked up and reframed. As far as the library, they're responsible for the daily administration. They fill out conditions reports as artwork is received, so we can keep on top of things if there's any damage at all, and can get that taken care of if needed. So we are relying on their experience in working with patrons, and they share surveys with us. And so I think it has been a very successful program. It certainly has been from the arts side of things, from Metro Arts. So I'll turn it over to Jessica to share her perspective.
Yeah, so this has been it's a win-win-win for Metro Arts, for the library, for our patrons. It's very easy. It's an easy collection to add. I was looking at some statistics yesterday, and 100% of the collection has checked out in the past year, which is that's outperforming most collections. Most collections, 100% of the collection wouldn't check out. So it's been a great experience. I mean, if you all have any questions, I'm glad to answer.
What's our track record on damage?
I'm not aware of any instances where the art itself was damaged. We have had a few items that have been repaired. It's more kind of wear and tear when you have people taking something on and off the wall. The paper backing can get torn, and we go ahead and replace that because we don't want the art to get damaged. We've had a couple where the frame, it looks like maybe it fell off the wall and the frame had to be replaced, but no damage to the art itself that I'm aware of.
Good. Great.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
So I just want to say that Ann Leslie reached out during the pandemic, and she said, what about doing this art lending library? And I was in Branches then, and I just thought, oh my gosh, are you kidding? And but she made it, Metro Arts made it so easy for us to implement this. And I think that in other library systems, the art lending isn't as effective because they're not local artists. But I think because these are our own local artists. The other thing I love is that, if the artist checked out, you can still see what each of those numbers means. And to see the amount, when I was at Madison last, there was not one that wasn't checked out. And so like Jessica said, that's incredible. And so our customers really love this. So when Ann Leslie reached out and said, could we expand? We're just like, absolutely. So I just want to thank, that's such a nice partnership for us.
Thank you.
Remind me, how long do you get to keep the art?
90 days.
90 days.
How many?
90 days.
90 days. Wow.
And you can renew once?
How many, Jessica?
Theoretically, you could renew once. However, the items always have a waiting list, so typically they're not able to renew. But
Okay. Any other questions?
Okay,
So
so
we
then you
need
do
a
vote.
motion on the floor to approve the MOU between Metro Arts and the Public Library.
So moved.
Kate made motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Katie, second. So we have a motion and a second to approve the memorandum of understanding between Nashville Metro Arts Commission and NPL. Any other questions, comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. I didn't say opposition, did I? Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you so much. Thank you so very much. And so next is the SIU report. Cal, we always it's always great to hear from SEIU every quarter. Kyle.
Hi, Madam Chair, Library Board, Library Administration. I'm Kyle Cook. I'm the elected lead steward of our organized employees at Public Library Department. I'm here to talk about the staff experience. We've been carefully following the incident like all of you, and we've waited patiently to hear the updates from our administration, and we understand sometimes that takes a while to get all the details down, and we've been satisfied to hear from our safety experts, and we know that it's very complicated to get the word out to a distributed workforce like we are at our 22 locations. Last Thursday, staff were really relieved to hear from our industrial hygiene experts. The crew took our questions, and they gave us a sense for what is happening at Main Library on the ground, where we've been out of the building. On the issue, Director Luke has dispensed the information as we have it, and to the staff and to the media. And if there's been any confusion, we've relied on what the official word is from our director. So if there's been any miscommunication, that's not anything we attribute to y'all. I also want to. We believe that Director Luke wants us to get back to work in the building as soon as possible, and we're anxious to do that too. And we also understand that we don't want to expose anyone to unsafe working conditions, and we appreciate all the effort that the contractors are making to clean the library. I also want to give you a sense of how it feels to be an MPL employee during this period. Across the library system, we've heard library staff, and some are frustrated with a lack of day-to-day consistency, being out at a different spot and not necessarily knowing where their next shift is going to be next week. This has caused some disruption to their schedules as far as arranging childcare, arranging transportation. A lot of us only have one car or no car, and we're used to riding the bus to Maine, so that's not an option right now. So we've had sign-up sheets that these have been changing a lot. We're starting to see some more stability in the coming weeks. We hope that we'll see some more stability come to that. But over the past month, I've heard from a lot of frustrated employees being displaced. Other departments' frontline staff have been splitting their time working from home and working shifts on the spreadsheet, and they have the struggles that happen when you're not at your own workspace, like Travis mentioned at the top. And a lot of the work we do at Main Library is highly specialized, and that type of work just doesn't exist at the branches. Another thing I've heard is some of their accommodations that they were used to having. The schedule at Main Library is a little earlier than at the branches. Some of us get in as early as 7 o'clock or 5:30 at Main Library, and that's just not the schedule they're accustomed to. So we're adjusting to all these changes, and branch staff isn't excluded from feeling some of the discomfort. They're having to kind of accommodate their colleagues from Maine and show them the ropes at their own location and how things might operate a little differently. And they've also reported a little bit displeasure that the experience of closing Maine has not been the same as closing a branch, which happens pretty regularly. So they've been at times forced to use their paid time off when a branch has been closed. And with some Maine staff using work from home, there is a concern about that not being equitable. As of last week, 1 month after the parking garage fire, the Maine staff public-facing positions were reassigned to work at a single branch, which I think will provide some stability. And I think some of the issues I mentioned will start to work out. Our members are committed staff members. They're committed to public service, and they're dedicated to seeing this library succeed. They're professionals, and we really hope to be in the building soon. And many are expressing a wish to see some proactive planning for what can we learn from this particular incident that we can do better. Hopefully not next time, but geez,
Yeah.
we've had enough incidents around here. So we hope that management is keen to engage with us in our labor management meetings where we can kind of work out the nuts and bolts of this and get input from staff.
Thank you so much, Cal. I just want to thank all of the employees for adjusting, to something we didn't see coming. And we just so great. We know that everybody's goal is to come back to the library and have everybody safe. So thank you so much for your report. Let's move to then, what is the budget with Linda and Brett? Don't have much time.
It's okay, it's only 5 minutes.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for giving us the last spot to wrap it up. About a year ago, Brett and I met with the finance office to discuss how we could create something simple and informative to teach the general public about Metro budget. We know that it's complicated. It has all sorts of moving pieces to it. And so we met, it was Brett, Forrest, I believe, Nick, Cameron, Nick, to kind of figure out how could we put a video together. And so we started that process. It's taken about a year, a little over a year, to get everything together in terms of filming and editing and so forth. And the goal is to eventually, after you see this video, to sort of extend it and have some future videos that will run behind this. I think it's part of the effort, at least on my part, to look at all of the departments within Metro to see how we can work together, because Nashville is growing so fast and one division is not going to be able to provide all of the services to our residents. So whenever we have an opportunity to work together to provide a service, I think that it's absolutely wonderful. So Brett is going to tell you about the video and then show you the first one that we've composed.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So, please understand that what you're about to experience is something that was not accomplished just by one group. It took many hearts, many hands, many minds to put this together. So please understand that almost a year ago, individuals from the Office of Metro Budgets came to the Nashville Public Library and worked with Nick and his team in the Teen Studio to create lyrics. Because this is not only just a video, it's a music video. A playful, fun music video that explains what the Office of Metro Budgets, what they're all about, and how they go about creating and making sure that the general public understands what a budget is and the services that they offer, that the budget offers. So they were able to come over to the Nashville Public Library, work with Nick to come up with lyrics, very, very short lyrics that explain the complex nature of a budget. Following that, the lyrics were handed off to Wishing Chair Productions to create the content and to record the music with really many wonderful, talented musicians here, and also lend our vocal talents to the project. The video was then the music was handed off then to Cameron and his fantastic team at NECAT Network that was allowed to go out into the public and record segments with divisions throughout Metro, along with green screen segments that made it all just really a wonderful experience. We hope that you enjoy What's a Budget.
Brett, before you go to the video, can you explain about, 'cause I especially wanted you all that have been here on the board for a really long time and has so much to do with Wishing Chair Productions, what Brett and his team just did. It's amazing.
So, as you know, String City is Wishing Chair, the library's largest presentation. We just finished our summer run of String City, and of course, since the loss of our beloved Steve Turner, it was worked out that we honor Steve and Judy Turner this run by featuring the marionettes that were created in the likeness of Steve and Judy Turner in front of the Ford Theater during the week-long run. We had many young audiences visiting the city, also adults that didn't have the pleasure to meet Steve and Judy to inquire about their life, their legacy, and it was a wonderful addition to have their marionettes shared in that special way. And we show and extend our appreciation to their family for the lending of these wonderful puppets. So,
And our incredible team that, I mean, those look so much
They look
like
so much
them.
like
I'm like,
Steve
oh
and
my
Judy.
gosh, Brett.
and I will also
just like
mention
Steve and
the
Judy.
members over the Country Music Hall of Fame and Museum, they were absolutely touched. And I don't know if you noticed the little detail, but they're holding hands. They're holding hands. And just having that, just to be able to see that, meant so much to so many. So thank you.
Where will these live? Will they live at the library or the Country Music Hall of Fame?
So these were gifted to the Turners.
Okay.
I believe it was in 2017, 2018, in that area. So when this run of String City came about, we reached out because they're still in their care.
Okay.
So once we finished String City, they were turned back over to the family.
Okay.
And now, please enjoy the musical version of What's a Budget?
Let me tell you about a budget. It's a plan we used to spend. Where the money's coming from and where the dollars at. Capital and operating. Few times like I said. It's about the services. Keep the city on its way. Budget pays for Nashville lives. Food supplies and traffic lights. Bidders, marks we play. Tax support that pays the way. Property tax from Davidson. Metro budget, it's done. Infrastructure secretary. Publish charts and legal terms. Keep things on the case. Corridors, all services, like roads and public care. Tax support and dollars codes, spread out good and fair. We give an NPS the funds, make the choices, get it done. Schools and kids and granted prize to help them learn and shine. Well, libraries keep us learning. Trash gets picked up too. Potholes fix, the roads are clear. Metro keeps us moving year to year. Year to year. Police and firefighters, they're standing strong. And the Metro staff, working all day long. And the folks people power, serving life away. To make our city shine each and every day. Budget pays for Nashville lives, food supplies and traffic lights. Bills, parks we pay, and tax support that pays the way. Sales tax from Davidson. Metro budget gets it done. Metro parks the county lines, arts that make our city fine. Services for Nashville pride that keeps our city's heart alive. Property and sales tax day or night, funds the future, keeps it bright. For you and me and Davidson, Metro budget gets it done. Metro budget gets it done. Metro budget gets it done.
That is just awesome. Has Metro Council seen this?
Not yet. I will just mention that this video was sent to the OMB a few weeks ago. Their response was great. They loved it. They laughed at many of the scenes in the scene. But as of at the moment, they're currently taking the lead in the release of this.
Okay.
So once they release this, we'll have access to it as well to release it through NECAT, through all of our social media platforms. But this preview is, of course.
Congratulations. Brett and Linda.
Thank you.
That is just tremendous. Any other comments, questions? What'd you say, Kate?
Yeah, I'm just excited about that. Wonder if the mayor's seen it.
We don't know.
Tremendous. Yeah, can't wait until we hear the feedback on it. That's just tremendous. Well, we don't meet in August, reminder. So the next meeting is September 16th. And I just want to thank the director here at the Southeast Branch and all of the staff for having us and making room for us today, and all the board and staff people who drove out here. We want to thank all of you for a great meeting today. And again, thank you all so much for being here. Motion to adjourn is in order.
So move.
All right, needs no second. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.